Hey everyone, this is Jamie, episode 6. I hope you've listened to all of them, but if you're bouncing around, that's totally cool. I'm doing a series on distance learning, reboot, and reflect. This is a super short episode. I just want to talk about 5 things related to teaching space. And I was thinking about this today based on how my tech is set up and the teachers that I saw in this online class. Okay, so here are my 5 things. We're going to talk about getting a good headset and making sure your audio is good, having 2 screens if possible, mouse versus trackpad, how to use your virtual backgrounds as a teaching assistant, and standing up. Okay, so close your eyes. I'm going to scroll like mad to get down to the bottom of this document. I got to set up some bookmarks for you. Okay, all right, teaching space. So what I noticed this weekend listening to the teachers is that, and there were about 5 of them on the call, on the Zoom, the ones who had headsets sounded so much more clear, and I was a little bit more engaged. And that made me think that we might need to do the same thing for our students. So I ordered some on Amazon today. I'm going to test them out, see what's good for us. They weren't that expensive. I mean, $12 to $25. If you're interested in trying one of these, please let me know because I'll test and kind of see what works and what our budget is. But I think this would actually just be a really nice improvement. And so audio we know is super important. Even thinking about our classrooms as we're modernizing at the elementaries, I'm considering having audio and speakers built in so teachers would have access to a mic when they're teaching. There's such good research on this. And if you know Dave Clausen, ask him his opinions. He's always taught with a microphone and really explains the benefits to the teachers in terms of voice strain and exhaustion. And it's pretty compelling. So anyways, I want to make my first recommendation about your teaching space is just making sure you have a headset with microphone on it. Students are going to hear better. You'll hear better. If you have an iPhone headphones, give those a try. But again, if you're interested in trying out a headset with a mic, let me know. I'll be trying to get some of those for us to test with. Okay, next up, having 2 screens. I just think, I know a lot of you have already moved towards this. And if you haven't, let me know so we can try to find a way to help you. I think this is just so necessary to be able to have your Zoom windows up and then what you're teaching, because I keep hearing that teachers are struggling when they open up Zoom, like your windows go crazy and you don't know where the chat goes. And everything I've been talking about in these episodes have been all about how powerful the chat can be when you're using it. And if it keeps disappearing on you or you don't see your participant list, that's just not going to work. And we need to make sure that is improved. So I know at the high school level, they were working with the PTA and PTSA to get second monitors for teachers. We can also start to dismantle our computer labs temporarily to try to get you a second monitor. So let me know if that's something that you haven't already secured for yourself, and we'll try to make that happen. Number 3, mouse versus trackpad. This is totally a personal preference. I just wanted to note that I have used a trackpad for a really, really long time, but I did move back to a mouse once the pandemic started. I just was on my computer a whole lot more, that seems surprising, but the mouse just was actually a better experience. So I switched back to it. So we do have mice in our computer labs and things like that we can kind of tear apart to get you that if you are on a trackpad. Even if if your laptop is primary, I'd recommend like plugging in a mouse and I think you'll have a better experience. So just a note on that. And then last 2, backgrounds. So I think there's a huge opportunity to use your Zoom background to support your instruction. So this is what I was thinking. When I taught, I often use my whiteboard as a way to save my voice, just because I thought it would be a good way to vary how class would run. And so I didn't want the kids to have to wait for me to get their attention to start class. I wanted the environment to be that visual cue, and I created a routine so they knew what to do. And so my routine was that I would have whatever we were doing the day on the board. And oftentimes it was a journal prompt. So they would get out their journal and they would start writing, and that's how class would start. And most of the time I would just have to do reminders. And normally it was just like point at the board because I was sitting there writing too. And that was just how class worked. And the days that we didn't journal, they just looked to the board to see what we were going to do. So could you use your backgrounds to do the same thing? I know some of you have positioned whiteboards in your background. That's really cool. So that totally works. But you could even use your Zoom or Zoom backgrounds to do this. So for example, you could create backgrounds like where different colors mean different things. So I was thinking like, okay, maybe you change your background green and it's like, oh my gosh, we've got 5 minutes till the quiz starts. I better ask all the questions I have. Again, it's that building that anxiety and anticipation in a positive way. So that's an idea I just kind of came up with. I had to do a webinar listening session with Wendy for DEI, and I needed to find a way to time the people who were going to come on and talk. So I went on YouTube and I found a video of a timer. I saved that as my background. And then when the people were talking, I turned my background to the timer. And I had to negotiate a little bit, like getting out of the way of the timer because it was right kind of like directly behind me. But I figured that out. And then I had to have a timer running. And so that brought back that element that I had missed when I was teaching of, using a timer. And that everybody could see. And then I also found this article to create backgrounds as messages. And so this was really cool. So you could have this little message board behind you. And this one says, have a great day. These ones are already there, like, welcome to our virtual classroom. This one's cool. Schools closed, learning's open. I mean, there's so many things you could do with this. So there's a link here to customize this template and you could create this background. This person used like classroom rules. So I imagine the teacher kind of sits right here and all the rules are up here. So kind of cool. So again, using your Zoom background as a TA, I was imagining like you change the background with a reminder for the homework for the night, or, just have a good weekend, or, I believe in you, like whatever your kids need that day, you can make your background do that. So kind of fun. And then if you choose to use this, let me know how it goes. Cause I'd love to like maybe create a Google Drive folder with all the backgrounds everybody's making so you guys can share with each other. And then last one. Standing up. I know some of you have created your own standing desks, and I wanted just to put out this kind of concept of standing when you're teaching, because that's something that's so natural for most of us, and it might have gone away as you're kind of confined to your desk. And I know some of you are feeling this and wanting to think of a way to do it differently. So what made me think of this is I'm part of a professional group called SITE, and it's the California IT Professionals in Education. And a few years ago, I went through their CTO program just to, get better at what I do and understand all the ins and outs. And so now I volunteer with them whenever possible. And each year they have their new cohort of graduates going through, and occasionally I'll help score their final presentations. And normally this is in person, and we're at a conference together, and we go into one of the conference halls, the session rooms, and I'm there with a couple other judges, and the candidates come in and they present live and we score them, and then they graduate, and it's all amazing. But this year it's going to be online for the first time. And so I read the guide that was created for the students on how to present. And the tip was make sure they stand on camera. And I thought that was super interesting. And it made me think about how I always stood up as a teacher unless I was, doing a discussion or something. So I would always be standing unless it was like discussion time, and then I'd sit down with the kids. So one 7-8 teacher mentioned how she used a bookshelf to kind of create a standing desk. I found this article for you. This one was like how to create a ergonomic standing desk for free. And it's just kind of like looking through your house and finding what you have. So this person kind of had a desk, and they took a couple boxes and propped them up. And then I loved that he used the OED, the dictionaries, and then propped up another box and then put the keyboard here and kind of made a standing desk. But I think what this could do is give you more space as a teacher. I think we tend to be kind of like, we move around and wave our hands and like whatever our kind of teaching personality is, this may just help you open up and do that. So I have that article for you. And then this one also, this was it was like this person used a coffee table and kind of flipped it upside down and then made their standing desk. So, I'm not encouraging you to tear apart your houses and redesign things, but whether you're at home in your classroom, if you want to think about this, we're happy to brainstorm with you. And even if it's just propping your laptop or your computer up a little bit so then you can back away and just angle the camera right, so then you have space to kind of teach that way. It doesn't really have to be about seeing your full body. The teachers I saw this weekend that the Stanford teachers that were standing, it really still was just kind of chest high, but I could just see that they got to kind of like rock a little bit, or, they just a little bit more movement that showed they were super comfortable. So just some ideas about your teaching space. Let me recap. We went over having good audio, getting 2 screens, thinking about mouse versus trackpad and what's more comfortable, using your Zoom backgrounds as a teaching assistant, and trying out standing up and seeing if that would make you more comfortable. All right. Thanks for listening to episode 6. See you for the last 2.